Thank you everyone for joining us today for the Proptech panel. I'm excited for this one because I've actually been wanting to do something on Contech, which is short for construction technology, and today is the day. Contech, or construction technology, is the topic of this month's the Proptech panel. Now, Contech describes everything that is related to the building and construction phase of the real estate life cycle, which is one of the most risky, one of the most money intensive, and also one of the most time intensive phases. So the types of functions that Contech can help with include procurement, resourcing, project management, subcontracting, site access and logistics, quality assurance, health and safety, defects management, and more. Today, I am in the Stone and Chalk facility in the Sydney Startup Hub. So I'm on Gadigal lands today. And if you don't know me, I'm Jennifer Harrison, and I am the Vice President of the Proptech Association. Every month we host a webinar, and we're very grateful for the support of Stone and Chalk in helping to run this event. I'd like to introduce the panel for today. My first guest is Justin Williams from ConstructionID. Hello, Justin. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Jennifer.
Today. How are you?
Well, thanks. And hello to everyone. I've had some microphone issues, so I don't know if everyone can hear me. Okay, but hello.
We can. And where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Melbourne, which is when I look behind me is actually sunny today.
We'll wait 5 minutes.
Very rare this time of year.
My second guest today is Chris Polin from DLP Manager. G'day, Chris. Thanks for being with us. How are you?
Very well. Thank you, Jennifer, for having us.
And where are you joining us from?
I'm upstairs from you in Stone and Chalk in York Street. So one floor up.
Lovely.
In Sydney.
And my third guest today is Bart Crowther from PlanRadar. Hello, Bart. Thanks for being with us. Where are you joining us from today?
Hey, Jennifer, great to be part of the panel today. I'm normally based in Sydney, but today I'm up in sunny Queensland at a major projects conference in Brisbane.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Justin, let me come and have a bit of a chat with you first, and let's find out more about ConstructionID. The first thing we always ask people is, please tell us in a nutshell what your Proptech does. Give us your elevator pitch.
So ConstructionID is software that can be used on small and large projects. That's both commercial and residential projects for the entire life cycle of the building. So it's a modular software, and we've got modules for pre-construction, construction, and post-construction. Today we're talking about Contech, so I'll talk about our construction module, which is called Procurement Defect, and it's specifically designed to assist projects with OH&S, so it's health and safety, quality and document control to help make those projects profitable.
Right. And can you tell us a little bit more about ConstructionID? Who are the founders? Who else do you work with? Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey? So
I'm the founder of ConstructionID, and in fact, I'm the founder. Originally, the journey started in 2011, so we've been in this for a long time now, as you can probably tell from my grey hair and receding hairline. We started with defects initially during the construction period, and there's a lot of uptake from this, and the demand was for that to flow onto post-construction. So we built an application for that. Then then the market asked us to build an application for OH&S, which is safety. And then after that, they asked us to build another application for document management. So that's 4 separate applications. The big aha moment for us came when we kept getting repeated requests to do more and more, and having to build other applications. That was a nightmare to manage. And we said we sort of said, why not just build the one application? That's ConstructionID that does it all. And as you can appreciate, that took a long time to not only architect but also build. And COVID, whilst it was a very, very, I'll say exciting period for us all, was also a good chance to take that time to make sure the architecture for ConstructionID was right. The hindsight that sort of downtime also gives you is that if I did this journey again, I wouldn't build so many applications and so many different client builds. I put everything into the one application, and that's something that hindsight gives everyone, isn't it?
Hindsight's always 20/20, as they say, but that's quite interesting because it's always, I think it's very interesting for founders who are still quite early in their journey to hear these little nuggets from founders who are a bit further along. And I think there's also an interesting tension. I can see some Proptechs are very single-minded. They are focused on doing pretty much just one thing, and they do it very well, and they can go faster. Other Proptechs are building in more options and more future revenue streams into their foundations, and therefore they're going a bit slower. But I don't know that there's a right or a wrong. Tell us a little bit more, please, Justin, if you can. What would you say is the biggest pain point that ConstructionID solves for in the construction industry? And can you explain to the audience, please, how are you using technology to solve for that?
So look, we cover pretty much every aspect of on a construction site. That's the quality, the OH&S, and the document management side. So it's a lot of scope to cover. However, the common theme over all of those functions is administration, and the administration that's involved in managing all those different processes. So the word administration can mean many things to people. It can mean forms, and it can mean reports, it can mean registers, it can mean documents, it can mean communications, it can mean compliance, it can mean checklists, it can mean inductions. I'm just reading this list out here. However, all of these drive some very important things like quality and safety. And those are the two I suppose, quality, safety, time, and cost are the four most important things on any construction project. And having software that helps with all those things behind the scenes is very important. Look, one thing that software is great at doing, and any software is great at doing, is it's great at solving and helping with repetitive tasks. And the resultant workflow that these tasks need. So some of the things that using software automates is sending emails, updating Excel spreadsheets, and the like. I guarantee that every company probably in the world is using some form of Excel spreadsheet, and that is an absolute nightmare to keep up to date with, and software helps automate that or replace the old Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, absolutely. So, is it an app? Is ConstructionID delivered in an app form? Do tradies call up the app when they're on site? Admin people back in the office using a desktop version? Can you tell us a little bit more about that side of the tech?
Sure. So look, ConstructionID is both an app, so it's on your mobile device, and that all talks to or synchronizes with a web portal. So desk-based users and on-site users can use the app and or the web portal. So a choice of both. So with the app, we make it very intuitive and easy to use. So it's important that it's easy to use, so people use it. But also, it's important, and I've seen it firsthand, that users have access to information. I've seen firsthand how much time is lost travelling back to the site, to and fro from the site office, whether that's in an alley mac, a builder's lift, or physically walking back to the site office takes a lot of time. So the more information you can give users on site on their device, on their mobile phone, the better. It eliminates that. And I talked about the Excel spreadsheet before being, the number one, I won't say enemy, but the number one thing that you need to address.
Maybe it's a hard habit to break for yes. A lot of people. I mean, I do quite like an Excel spreadsheet myself.
So the more that we can replicate, but also automate that Excel spreadsheet, the better. What that also means, if people are using things like forms or workflows, it's eliminating a lot of the data entry issues that can happen when you use Excel, and that in turn avoids rework, which creates cost inefficiencies and time loss, and drives up the makes projects take longer, but also drives up the productivity loss in construction. So we like to think of ConstructionID being the 1%er of construction, and that's the sporting terminology for the person who performs a number of actions which clearly benefit a team but doesn't have a defined position or a defined role.
Okay, interesting. How are you approaching sales and marketing at ConstructionID?
So our sort of go to market as a SaaS is basically through my network. This year it's really about scaling up and getting a lot more professional about things, and employing a marketing team and a sales team to actually get out there and get known.
Okay. And can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek at what might be coming up on your product roadmap?
Okay, so I've jotted down quite a few notes here, but the highlights of our sort of roadmap over the next few years would be some of the really exciting emerging technologies like AI and robotics, and how we can integrate with those technologies, but also in a commercial sense, we're looking to become hopefully one of the top 3 SaaS solutions in Australia, and just focus on the Australian market, because by doing that we can help change the market, and we've got with ConstructionID we have a fairly unique model where it's useful throughout the supply chain, rather than lots of disparate systems. And we hope by becoming one of the top 3 SaaS models, we can help change the construction roadscape, by doing that, it helps the industry, which is currently, as everyone knows, on its knees a bit and suffering.
There's definitely some ongoing challenges in construction industry. I was just at a presentation this morning where an economist from REA was saying cost inflation is 11-12% in construction at the moment. And I think it seems like every week Channel 9 News is reporting that another home builder sadly has had to go into insolvency. So thank you very much for telling us about ConstructionID, Justin. Chris, let's have a little bit of a chat about DLP Manager. So same question to kick it off. In a nutshell, what is DLP Manager? Give us your elevator pitch.
DLP Manager is a workflow solution for the handover and customer warranty period, mainly focused around the needs of the builder and developer, but engaging with all the stakeholders to make sure that's a smooth, streamlined process. Oop, you're on mute there, Jennifer.
Yeah, sorry. So tell us a little bit more about your journey into the land of startups.
Yeah, so I came from a long line, 15, 20 years in construction with Lend Lease and multiple companies, and ended up starting my own business. and looking for work, I ended up getting some connections with some tier 1 developers and builders, and ended up with a spreadsheet 3,000 lines long. And I've done it at Lend-Lease before.
Excel will give you a million lines.
That was
you
just
really
one
need them.
building. It was just one building, Jennifer. I looked at it and smiled and said, yes, sir. And I went and I wasn't doing it again. So I went and fixed my own problem. So I had
Perfect. Love
company
it.
I worked with before. He built an MVP and a workflow solution to manage that coordination between the handover from owners, developer, builder, subcontractors, and all the way around the big circle of defects management. That workflow takes about 8 steps and involves 4 people, and that's for one defect. So we times that by 3,000. It's not achievable in Excel. So we built a workflow management tool, and then built it out over the next few years, working with this tier 1 builder and developer, and got to a point last year where we released it, where it was ready for lease for companies to take it on themselves. So there's lots of post-construction teams out there. For every building and developer seem to have a post-construction team. So now providing them the backup and software to allow them to manage and coordinate that efficiently.
Mm. And so if DLP Manager wasn't in there, I mean, how would those post-construction teams be handling the problem? Is it just lots of bodies, lots of spreadsheets, lots of phone calls?
Lots of bodies, lots of spreadsheets, lots of phone calls, lots of people, more people than necessary getting involved. Look, I've landed on the initial problem is the owners aren't getting heard by the construction companies. If they send an email or if something gets missed, and it's very emotional time for owners when they're handing over. So we've got to take that into account. So our platform, as soon as it's logged by the owner, all mobile friendly, they can log a defect and the builder's notified it immediately and can assess that item and give that owner some assurance it's being met. So a lot of transparency and accountability in our platform, all the way through that workflow.
Mm. It's interesting. I think I have told you this when we had a chat a few months ago, but I bought a property off the plan in 1999, actually. Yeah. And then when I initially moved in, they explained to me, they called it snagging. There was this snagging process.
The UK
and look, this was 1999. Yes, it was in London in the UK. And I typed up a list. I think I had 33 items on my snagging list, and this was 1999, so I actually faxed it over to them. And I did feel that they just randomly told a few tradies to come, and they thought that maybe by fixing 5 or 6 of the problems, I wouldn't actually pursue them or have an expectation that the other problems would be fixed. And in some cases, I was told that the problems weren't a problem. And I actually had, like a ventilation outlet that didn't have a cover. It actually just literally had some gaffer tape over it.
Yeah.
And I was I actually had a window. Sorry, I had a window that couldn't open because there was a balcony railing, and the window could open basically 1 centimetre. And I said to them, no, I think you need to take that window out and replace it with a window that actually will clear the balcony railing and open. But look, it was quite a process for me. I had.
Well, you're still emotional about it. That was 20 years ago.
I am, I am still emotional about it. Because it does your head in. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
with that quick workflow, you sent that to the builder, but the builder paid a window guy, and how we need the right information to get that through to the right person. So everyone, there's no excuses why we can and cannot do it. So, and it's, with technology now that's available to us, photos, descriptions, yes, and working through that workflow. So well, the workflow is born from experience in managing this process. So that workflow, nice and direct, but then there's everything in between with defects management. And we bought a phone for this business because that's how you manage defects, and we don't use it anymore.
Right.
So that's where we've got to
go. That's a great proof point. So yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about the technology you've built?
Yeah, so we've got a developer team who also builds workflow technology for Sydney Water. So They have developed this workflow where very permissions based. So if you're an owner, you only see bits and pieces. There's a lot of stuff in defects that happens in the background for builders and subcontractors managing that process as well. So back charges and communications and rectifications of water leaks, but then not only just fixing the water leak, but the carpet, the patching, the painting, the mold, and everything comes along with it. So there's a lot of experience in how that workflow goes direct, but then also round in circles, but still going in the same right direction. I'm a big one of just making sure we get to an endpoint, although I do understand there's a lot of aspects to a defect. You know, and again, that's one defect in 3,000. Yeah. So it can get very complicated for the builder, trying to manage who's it with, where's it at. Well, it's impossible in a spreadsheet. We use a traffic light system. It's very visual, so you can see things are moving quite quickly. And if they're not, again, alarms and automatic notifications going ahead and helping you manage that process.
Yeah. And so how do you approach sales and marketing? How are you going to market?
So we've got a good marketing team that's built a lot of awareness, and we jump on the back of this awareness of technology and construction. But in the last year, we've built awareness around this, you know, really underserved phase of construction. As Justin knows, the post-construction phase is really construction company a hard phase. Construction managers who have built $100 million building really struggle with that that management of homeowners after. So we've really built awareness around a different option and removing the emotion out of defects. And then this year, that marketing is really starting to pay off with a lot of organic growth and awareness that, hang on, there's another option other than manhandling and spreadsheets.
Yeah. And can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek as to what's coming up on your product roadmap?
Yeah, so we've got a feature coming out in the next month that will open us to the remedial building. So allowing remedial builders to manage and owners communities to manage any building reports. So that's a big step and a new market for us for basically everything post-construction. When I say post-construction, after the initial build. So be able for owners communities to document all those works, building works in their building on that job. And then we're looking to sort of, with our partners, we've partnered with Procore and a couple of international clients to sort of start to look a bit further overseas by the end of the year. And we've also got our eye on some AI stuff and machine learning. So
wonderful. Thanks so much for telling us about DLP Manager.
Thank you.
And Bart, PlanRadar, same opening question to you. In a nutshell, can you give us the PlanRadar elevator pitch, please?
Yeah, sure can. You know, we certainly do have some similar value propositions across, you know, Justin and Chris's products there and our own. PlanRadar is really focused on you know, increasing the communication and the collaboration on construction and property projects. And we do that by being able to customly align our form building part of the platform for data collection around a particular process that a business might have. And, you know, you can take photos, you can do voice to text for your notes, and it's really, really super quick at creating smart and very professionally laid out reports. So we kind of find that we've got value propositions in a few different areas, Jennifer. So it can be a specialty contractor like an engineer. It could be a complete, you know, digitization for a head contractor, or it could literally be defect management for another customer. And, you know, we've got another part of the platform where you can actually take existing PDF forms, turning them into fillable forms, and they can be aligned to a project. And when they're filled out and completed by a subcontractor or a participant on a project, they then become a flattened document of record on that project filed where you want it to be filed.
Lovely. And can you tell us, please, a little bit more about PlanRadar, where it's headquartered and where else in the world you are? And then tell us a little bit more about how you run PlanRadar in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a nice sort of a romantic story, if you like, around our origins, Jennifer. We hail from Vienna in Austria. It's a very, very beautiful part of the world, and PlanRadar, you know, was started a little over 10 years ago. And we've got offices in, I believe, 19 countries now. We've got 120,000 users across 65 countries. So in that little over 10 years, we've grown, you know, tremendously well. With the operation here in Australia, I started with the company as the country manager a little over a year ago. And very quickly, I understood that the Austrians, who are very German in their thinking, very structured, they have a plan for success for everybody who works within the business. So they already had a recipe for success for me. So even though I had, you know, all these years of experience, they were saying, well, this is the Austrian way. So it was important for me to embrace all of that thinking, first of all, and see whether there was any additional elements we needed to add for the Australian market. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
So does that mean every Australian employee also has their own personal plan for success?
Yeah, they sure do, Jennifer. Like, as an example, I mean, one of your few questions coming up is going to be around, you know, things like the sales and marketing. So if you look at a salesperson, for example, there is 4 different types of sales position that is available within the company, like 4 levels. I can only hire for the first 2, right? The second 2, they need to be achieved.
Ah, okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So this might be, I know this might be a bit of a challenging question, but if you had to, could you point to the single biggest pain point you think PlanRadar solves in the Australian construction industry?
The single biggest one, I think, if I had to sort of focus on the single biggest one, I think one of the biggest problems that all of these platforms have in going to market is the change management side, Jennifer, in getting businesses to embrace that digitization and that change. And I think if I could put it on one thing, it's the fact that PlanRadar can take a single process and digitize it cost effectively without having to boil the ocean. So I think one of the biggest success points that the PlanRadar has had in the Australian market to date is being able to digitize the process for client-side engineers that are doing complex and detailed inspections on large projects and having to magically create a report for their client on a daily basis, which usually takes them 2 to 3 hours to complete after they've been on site all day. Now they can complete that in 30 seconds.
Fantastic. So can you tell us a little bit more about the technology that enables that to be done in 30 seconds? And what does it actually look like to be using PlanRadar? Is it an app? Is it a desktop portal? What does it look like in the hands of the user?
Yeah, so PlanRadar is a true SaaS driven platform that is hosted on AWS. So we have a desktop application which is largely centered around the user or the person who's going to be sitting in an office who wants to see pretty dashboards that's going to help them manage things by exception and drill into the areas that need their attention. Pardon me. And then out on site, you've got the capability for the workers that are needing to go out in the field. They can have access to apps for iOS, for Android, for Windows, both on tablets and phones, and they don't even need to have an internet connection to continue using the software. But what they're usually presented with is they can upload plans to PlanRadar, and you can pin a location to a plan. You can GPS tag your location, and then create your communication. And your communication, it could be, you know, an RFI or a request for information. It could be a defect. It could be a safety inspection that you're doing. And so PlanRadar makes it very, very simple to sort of access all of those capabilities out on the projects.
Wonderful. What kind of feedback are you able to share with us? Some of the feedback you're getting from the market from those users?
Yeah, absolutely. Having only opened the office here for a little over a year ago, Jennifer, we've already landed our first mega project. And it's probably one of the most fantastic bits of feedback we've had in the business since I started here. It's a $780 million bridge project in Hobart. And within 1 month of implementation, the Tasmanian government, that is renowned for never letting you do a press release, allowed us to do a press release, signed off on that. The press release that we ran in the Australian media then got picked up by the Croatian equivalent of the Financial Review, because our founder is a Croatian engineer, and we had done a massive bridge project in Croatia. And within, I think, 24 hours of that article being run in the financial newspaper over there, the Croatian office for PlanRadar received a phone call from the Australian consul saying, "Hey, I want to meet with you." And then he started inviting them to parties. So they're calling me up saying, "What are you doing down there, Bart?"
Well, it just goes to show the power of PR, which I would say, since that's my day job, PR. But actually, we have got that news release Bart just mentioned on the proptechassociation.com.au website in our member news section. That's a great story, though. I might use that one for the power of PR. But anyway, back to construction. We've spoken about time and efficiency benefits. Are there any other benefits you'd like to highlight, either from construction technology in general or more specifically from the PlanRadar platform?
Yeah, look, I think there's quite a lot of hype out there in the industry, especially when you talk to high levels of government, when they talk about sustainability, and they say, "Oh, we've got to have more sustainable projects." And quite often tech companies are sort of scratching their heads going, right, so what does sustainability really mean? And I think when you focus on the elements of minimizing waste, eliminating rework, and reducing defects, that in a nutshell is creating a more sustainable environment. So, the savings of time and the increased and improved communications is really what these platforms are about, bringing some smart controls to people by making information available.
Yes, I like the way you put that, and agree with you. It's increasingly, I know businesses that have to, for example, respond to tenders or RFPs. There's always now some kind of ESG or sustainability question in there. And if you are a for-purpose Proptech, it's a lot easier often for you to answer those questions. But if you're solving for a problem in a particular sector like construction, I think it is important for people to be able to articulate those benefits exactly like you said, reduce waste, reduce rework, reduce defects, and just join up the obvious logic to, there's less landfill, I guess at the end of the day. Yeah. How at PlanRadar are you approaching the sales and marketing function? How do you go to market?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Jennifer. It's a big success story for the company and the structure that we've got for our sales and marketing. So in Australia, we have 3 marketing roles that we actually have. So we've got a digital marketing role that is very specifically defined. We've got an events and partnerships marketing role, which is very clearly defined. And then we've got a content marketing role, which is also very clearly defined. Everybody understands and knows their job and what their job is and what their job isn't. And then on the other side with the sales, we've got, as I mentioned, pardon me, two of the positions, the sales consultant and senior sales consultant that we can hire into, and the other 2 they've got to achieve, and they achieve that through not just sales, but also consistency. At the top level, they've basically got to have achieved €1 million in sales in a 12-month period, and plus some other elements that they need to actually, to prove before they can get to that level. Behind all of that, we've got a team of 150 sales development representatives based out of an international location that call down and make appointments. And out of those 150, we've got 6 that are 100% focused on the Australian market. There's a lot of time and effort that is spent in studying each market, so that those representatives aren't just calling down, for example, on the Australian market and sounding like an international call centre. They understand the way the market works and what they want and what they don't want. And, you know, basically the net result is we have around about anywhere between 4 and 7 appointments put in every salesperson's calendar every single day. By those sales development representatives. So it's a very, very successful model.
Yeah, there's an element, I guess, of just process and consistency. And I know in the residential space, there used to be this idea of 10 at 10. You had to make 10 phone calls at 10 o'clock every single day. You know, day, yeah. Okay, and are you able to tell us, give us a sneak peek, what's next for PlanRadar in Australia? What's next? What might be coming up on your product roadmap?
Yeah, no, great question. We've just had 2 massive releases in the last 6 months. The first one was about 6 months ago, and it was the capability around being able to take your project schedule into PlanRadar. So quite often businesses are creating a project schedule in Microsoft Project or P6. You can now upload that file into PlanRadar and almost instantaneously create tasks that are aligned to each of those line items. And pardon me, and then when you when that task is updated, so too is the project schedule on the fly. In addition to that, we released about 2 months ago our full document management capability, and it's not just document management; it's about you know, document approvals and plan approvals, and you know, things like shop drawing reviews, etc., can be formalised within PlanRadar now. Now, the things that are coming up, you know, as the other guys, Chris and Justin, sort of alluded to, that artificial intelligence. There's a lot of top secret stuff happening at head office. One of those things is a capability with the AI goggles, where you can literally be looking around a space that might be an existing building that doesn't have up-to-date plans. And so you can literally be looking around and it'll create the plan right there in front of you, to the point that you'll be able to utilize the measurements, etc., quite easily. And you know, that capability has been built out over the last few months, and we'll start to see that released, I believe, over the next few months.
Exciting. Thank you very much for telling us more about PlanRadar, Bart.
Thank you.
If anyone in the audience would like to ask a question, you can use the Q&A function or the chat, and we'll funnel those through to the panel. Chris and Justin might come back to, actually Chris might come back to you first. Bart just talked a little bit about sustainability. Do you find that comes into many of your conversations in the market, or is that something where you're trying, you know, consciously to explain what the benefits of doing defects better are from a sustainability point of view?
Yeah, so the ESG, so the environmental, social and governance. So we found our main, well, the ESG, social is a big one for us. Environmental, you know, we eliminate site visits, we eliminate a lot of stress on the subcontractors and the owners by giving everyone as much information as they need to sort of knock that defect off the first time, rather than back and forth. So we, you know, hard to measure, but definitely providing the right information so that to minimise the rework and the appointments for the owners. Social is the big one for us. The defects managers, you know, it can be a very negative job. You've got emotional owners and defects not being done. So we've really removed that emotion and made it easier for those teams to, you know, it's always been very transient as well. It's a graduate who wants to get onto the next project, or, you know, they've got an admin who doesn't want to do it anymore because they just get too emotional. So we've really tried to help with that workplace, and to a point where our team can now manage building reports of defects without going to site. So that's, we have defect foremen who work from home. So, which has never been heard of before. So no one ever thought a foreman could work from home, but all the information's there, they're signing off and they're getting that engagement with their subcontractors. So we're finding that's where we're really adding value to the workplace and the resources of a company.
Great, thanks. And Justin, what's your experience at ConstructionID? How does sustainability or ESG come into either your conversations in the market or when you're planning and building your features?
Sure. So with ESG, governance is probably the lowest hanging fruit, if you like. That's something which is directly applicable. It's pretty easy to draw a connection between running things through a form, reporting on things, and following workflows, and how that satisfies governance. One thing that we've observed at ConstructionID is that with the other two parts, social and environmental, a lot of those are from a project and construction perspective, developer driven. So what I mean by that is the builder tends to, on the projects, follow what the developer says to do on the project. What's the old saying? You go where the money is. Do what the money says. So that's an observation that we've made at ConstructionID is a lot of the requirements or practices that are followed that the construction part follows are sort of developer driven. And in terms of the other impacts, so Bart and Chris have mentioned those, like I think they're sort of common. Those benefits are common with any digitization. Is you get social and environmental benefits. But yeah, look, I think the biggest impact is in the field of governance.
Wonderful. I mean, it will be interesting to see because we do have quite a number of ASX quoted companies that are in the civil engineering, building construction and property development space. I think it will be interesting to see as some of those big end of town, if I could put it that way, requirements on auditing and disclosure actually trickle down, how the industry at the big end of town starts to engage with some of these issues more specifically. So what we're hearing at the Proptech Association now is that some of the nice fluffy words that maybe have been used in the past to address ESG and sustainability, the auditors and the regulators now are not looking for nice fluffy words. They're looking for granular specificity and specific actions with specific measured impacts. So wait and see how that might trickle down. But one of the things I wanted to ask each of you as maybe a final question was, and I might come back to you first, Justin, is where do you think there's still really low hanging fruit? I mean, construction is messy, right? It is messy. I think, it's been estimated it actually takes 7 different trades to build a wall. Because you need a carpenter, you need a plasterer, you need an electrician, you need a painter decorator. Where is there still the low hanging fruit? I think there's low hanging fruit opportunities like that technology creates, and I talked about them briefly before, like in the field of artificial intelligence and robotics, because there's so much repetition in construction. Like if you're whether you're putting up a wall or installing a kitchen, there's a lot of repetition. It's not like it's a unique one-off task a lot of the time, and that's where I think technology can thrive. And the note that I jotted down is that so far, whilst it's really exciting, and as I said before, we've been in this content market for a long time now, and it's exciting to see widespread adoption of software and systems, and people are changing their mindsets. There's a lot less labour-intensive faxing, and we talked about faxing before, Jennifer, and emailing. There's a lot more adoption of software, which is a good thing. But I think that's only step 1 of a long journey. Step 2 is a really exciting part. Step 2 is when
you start to implement some of those new exciting technologies like robotics and start to cut those 7 trades you talked about down into maybe one trade that is delivered by some kind of robotic I don't know, some robotic builder, and you've got a project manager that's inspecting it and inspecting the quality and relating that back digitally. So, I think that technology can automate a lot of the manual tasks at the moment. Imagine how cool it would be in a world where, buildings are built for half the price, but you've got 2 times as many buildings being built. You've got 2 times as many opportunities for improvement. You've got twice the safety. You've got twice the quality. I mean, that to me is like a perfect situation where you've got technology driving and helping the built environment.
Fantastic. And Chris, what would you say is still, some of the low-hanging fruit out there?
There's a lot. I think the construction industry is not low-hanging. We're a bit of laggards with technology, but I think the technology that's coming out with, especially with the 2 panels here, is all experience-driven technology, and it's just coming around and gaining the trust of the construction industry. So I think that's definitely coming. You see that with all the chat around the future in technology and construction. So our clients are not wary, but they want to see how it works and the experience behind it, I suppose. And I think that's what they're looking for, and then they're adopting it. So we're having good adoption rates. So we've just got to keep going, turn up the next day, and it'll take off, I think.
Okay. And Bart, what might be your observations as to where there's still low-hanging fruit for technology to help the construction industry?
Yeah, no, look, to Chris's point about, being laggards in the technology, the utilisation of technology in this space. I mean, construction is the lowest digitised industry, except for, I believe, hunting and fishing. So it doesn't really say much, right? But I think the low-hanging fruit for us is as you look at, as the builders look at speeding up the process of delivering their projects, they're turning to things like off-site modular building of elements of their projects so that it can just be assembled out there on site. And so, when you look at the requirements that are still required at the end at handover, people need to know what was happening in the production line, the elements and effort and details that went into putting together those modular pieces. And that's where, platforms like possibly all of the platforms represented here can be utilised on that production line facility, capturing information and details through to the actual construction site where things are being assembled through to the handover. And I think, as the industry is trying to pivot and change, the technology is there to actually assist and make that process a hell of a lot easier and still keep things connected.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think that probably brings us up to time. Where shall I say? So Chris, yes, come back to you. So I start with you, Chris. Thank you very much for joining us today. If people would like to connect with you personally and also find out more about DLP Manager, what's the best way for them to do that?
So website DLP Manager, you can book a demonstration through there, or look me up on LinkedIn, or info@dlpmanager.com, and then we'll connect from there.
Fantastic. Justin, what's the best way for people to find out more about ConstructionID and also to connect with you personally?
Sure. So to find more about ConstructionID, it's the website, so www.constructionid.com. And if you want to connect with me personally, you can connect through LinkedIn, like Chris was mentioning before, Justin Williams. And then, of course, we've got all their socials for Wise Working ConstructionID if you need any more information.
Yep. And Bart, same question. What's the best way for people to find out more about PlanRadar and also connect with you personally?
Yeah, no problem at all. I think as the other guys were mentioning, through the website, www.planradar.com, and also connect via LinkedIn. I've got a fairly detailed profile there, and you know, once you've touched our PlanRadar page, I dare say you'll receive a phone call from one of our sales development officers pretty quickly.
Okay, excellent. And LinkedIn and email is a great way to stay in touch with the Proptech Association as well. If you're not already, I would encourage you to follow our page, Proptech Association Australia, on LinkedIn. And if you're not signed up to our newsletter, please pop over to our website, proptechassociation.com.au, and sign up for the newsletter. Following us on LinkedIn and the newsletter are the best way for you to stay up to date with our events, like our webinars, our other events like our awards, and our bi-monthly member meetups. So thank you again to Justin, Chris, and Bart. I'm Jennifer Harrison. Thanks for joining me, and watch out, as I said, on the LinkedIn and newsletter for information about next month's the Proptech panel.